So the first question is, how have ongoing events as well as past prejudices faced by the Black community affected your mental health and the health of others in your community?
Well, like personally, like how have past injustices affect, can you say that again actually? Sorry.
Yeah, ongoing events as well as like things you've been through in the past
Okay.
and how your community has faced it.
Um, well, I think ever since I was in like literally kindergarten, I remember like my dad, he's obviously or not obviously, but my dad's Black, my mom's white. I was embarrassed to have him help in my classroom because he just looked so differently, and my friends would ask me like, why is your dad brown? And so ever since literal like kindergarten, it's been instilled into my brain that something was different about me, and I was ashamed, to be honest. Like I was just too young to make sense of what was going on. And it started super young basically, and then that just continued. I learned more obviously as I got older, but that's my earliest like memory of being Black and having it affect. And I don't, sorry, kind of like stumbling over my words, but um yeah.
So
Okay.
was that Sydney, right, from Monte Vista?
Yeah.
I remember in her speech she was saying like everyone has like that defining moment when they realize they're Black. Would you say that was like the moment for you?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I watched the news speech and I totally like that moment. Um yeah, that was definitely the moment for me.
Can you explain what it means to be anti-racist and not just like not racist?
Yeah. So I think being anti-racist definitely means like using your platform to advocate for change against racism and to spread awareness against racism. Well, you can claim to not be racist, but if you're silent, like I think that's just as bad. You're feeding into the problem. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then going on to the next question, have you ever experienced or felt the lack of education regarding the use of the N-word and Black history in general?
Um, I think personally, like in my US history class, I was a junior last year, and that's like when we like learned about like United States history. And that was like kind of the first time, like besides elementary school, that slavery was really brought up. And I don't think it was adequate at all. There's a lot more that could have been said. It was pretty brief. It was just like the teacher was reading from the textbook.
Yeah.
And I don't, yeah, it wasn't adequate.
Okay. Thank
Like
you.
even around you, do you hear people like say it in songs and like play it off and say, "Oh, I wasn't using it in like a racist context"? Like, is that common? Like, have people
There,
around you?
yeah, like my friends, like close friends of mine growing up, like they'll like say it in songs, we'll be together and they'll like slip and then everyone will like look at me and be like, oh, like sorry, Maddie, but like, and then I'll like try to educate them about why they shouldn't use the word. And they're like, oh, it's just like in a song, like there's just excuses. Like I just think they just don't understand.
Exactly.
And then is there anything else that you think like should be taught in addition to like what's taught?
Um, yeah, I feel like we should in schools listen to Black voices specifically. Um, like not even just Martin Luther King Jr. He's kind of like the model like Black activist, I think.
Yeah.
But there are so many other people that we should have learned from, like prominent civil rights activists during even like Angela Davis. I don't know if you guys have heard of her, but I did like a huge report on her my freshman year, and a lot of people don't know about her, and there are so many others that like her, that like Stokely Carmichael and the originators of the Black Panther Party, like we don't hear their voices, we don't hear from them, and so I feel like they deserve more representation in schools for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
They're very glazed over.
hmm
And then just this kind of is related to the first question, but like, what kind of effect does like the fears and added strains of just being a Black person in this country, like, what do you think that can have on someone? And like, are there any examples of any stresses or just additional things you face because of how people treat?
I think because of my gender specifically, like I haven't really like I'm not like I remember when I was little, like in elementary school, I have brothers that we have like a 10-year age gap. So when I was in elementary school, they were in high school going to SRV. And I remember my parents having to talk to them about like giving them the police talk, which was never given to me. But all I remember about that is just like being confused, being not necessarily like I didn't see it as a race problem. I saw it more as a gender thing. Like, oh, I felt lucky to have been born a girl. So, and it's just unfair.
Definitely.
Adding on to that though, do you know anybody who else have experienced stuff like this and that's affected their mental health because of like just being African American in this country?
For sure. I have one of my close friends, or not really close, but I've known her since middle school. We've pretty much grown up with each other. She's the only other like Black. She's half Black, half Mexican, and basically our entire lives, like people like in Danville have like asked us if we're cousins, like asked us if we're related. We're constantly like putting, like it feels like we've been in constant competition with each other our entire lives because people are constantly comparing us. I know for a fact that that has affected our ability to have a friendship because we constantly feel like we're being put against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like we can't get close and we can't be friends because like, and we weren't even like close. We've like grown up with each other, but like we're constantly being put in the same group, constantly being talked about in the same sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like being in like, I know SRV, I go to Monte Vista, and SRV and Monte Vista are really like predominantly white. Like, do you think that's also had an effect on you, or like?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Just like being in an environment where there's aren't many people that look like you. It can, I think that would make anyone feel like an outcast.
Yeah.
You really have, like, it's
Right.
it's difficult. Yeah. 100%.
And then looking into the future, what kind of changes should we strive to make socially and legislatively so that people can like get involved and have this movement keep on going, and then rather than like just keeping it as a trend?
As far as keeping the movement going, I think people just need to keep advocating, keep using their voices. And I definitely have seen like people just hopping on a trend, and that I think is a huge problem in itself. Like it's just so fake.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
people need to be constantly reminded of their privilege and where they are. And like my speech that I gave, like I know that a lot of people needed to hear it. Not like even people who were there, like the audience that I was speaking to, like those were people that cared about Black Lives Matter, that wanted to be there. But like even then, like I feel like people need constant reality checks.
Yeah.
Like people need to hear from people in the Black community. People need to listen to them.
Yeah. And then like in terms of what is happening right now, do you feel like there will be change involved more than what it was in history or like in the past movements? Like, do you feel like there's something different this time?
I remember like Black Lives Matter when Trayvon Martin was killed, like in 2014, 2015. And I was pretty young during that. But obviously, if all that was going on then and it's still going on now, like it doesn't make you very hopeful for what's going on now. But I just know that now that I'm older and I'm like able to participate in the movement more and I know more and I'm more knowledgeable and I've just had more experience, I feel like just being able to take part in it makes me feel like, and just like speaking to my peers too, makes me feel like maybe change is more likely, but honestly, like, I don't know. Like, I'm uncertain. I don't really have a lot of faith, sadly, but of course I'm gonna keep pushing and keep trying. I know that there are people who are willing to do the same, so.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, thank you for like just being here and sharing your side and like your story and everything.
Yeah,
It's really
of
cool.
course.
Means a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, of course. Your speech was literally amazing. You and Sydney both made me cry. It was just so well said too. Like,
I literally found out about the rally that I went to like the night before, and like reached out to the organizer and like told her I wanted to speak. And Tiana Day, have you heard of her? The leader of the Golden Gate Bridge protest. I'm really close friends with her, and she actually like helped me write it. And if I didn't have that push from her and like even Sydney, like I don't think I would have had the courage to go and speak up. I think it's definitely like a domino effect, and yeah, I'm really grateful for them.
I'm glad you did, and I'm glad that you came and talked to us today.
Thank you. Yeah.